Why are people scared of those with schizophrenia? Hollywood doesn't help the image of severe mentally illnesses. Well, I know a 16-year-old who has it. He is huge, and during an episode, he choked his mom to unconsciousness. I know that's a rare case, but those are the kind of things that people remember. My MAL has schizophrenia. Every time she goes off her meds, she accuses someone of some kind of abuse. Last time it was directed at me, claimed I was drugging her daughter in the basement of our apartments. Sent police to do a welfare check. Left a pretty horrible message on Christmas Day. No offense to you and I wish you the best, but this is behavior I would avoid, if I could. Build 100 bridges and fuck one goat. No one will remember you as a bridge builder. Regardless of what people are like with mental illnesses, the media usually only shows them when it's story relevant and often not in a flattering way, and you only hear real-world stories about them when something very bad happens. No one is hearing the bridges built. I'm not saying you're this way, but I used to work with individuals with schizophrenia and many of them were disorganized and unpredictable. They would yell sometimes and they generally had pretty poor hygiene. Plenty of them would go on long winding rant stories that made people feel uneasy. A few did get violent and hurt people. People with schizophrenia can be unpredictable. My grandmother had it and did not take medication. She used to chase my grandfather around with a knife, scaring my mom and her sisters to death. She would yell at us and accuse us of talking about her when it was the voices she heard. She yelled at the dishwasher because it was yelling at her, etc., etc. These are just a few examples, but she had a horrible life and is finally at peace. Aside from the people pointing out the obvious about Hollywood, I'd say also it's the fact that a lot of actually schizophrenic people I've met IRL seem to have more wrong with them than just schizophrenia. I only know like one person who has schizophrenia, and that is their only disorder problem. The paranoia and confusion can turn violent. I had a bad break one night while visiting my mother and nearly broke her neck, confusing her for a vague hostile presence in the dark. I had no idea where I was, but there was a threat to be eliminated nearby. I think a lot of people have a poor understanding of what it means. We're exposed to movies and TV shows that have people acting dangerously, and then in the show, they are diagnosed as schizophrenic. It is treated as a more sophisticated version of crazy, which means that people with a poor understanding of mental illness are badly educating giant audiences about something that they themselves don't actually understand. I'm sorry that you're experiencing this firsthand. Best wishes, and I hope you have success with your medication. Likely because unfortunately too many people with well-controlled schizophrenia don't understand that it is only the medication that keeps them functional, and that the side effects are really a very small price to pay for that. At some point they think they can just do without it for completely dumb reasons like being afraid to get fat or not having a good sex life, as if that was worse than being completely detached from reality. They don't tell anyone because they know no reasonable person would agree. Of course, relapse almost immediately, and everyone else has to deal with the fallout of that decision. I've been manic for 45 days straight. I wouldn't want to interact with that me, but I would never bat an eye at hanging with someone diagnosed with schizophrenia or borderline, as long as they take their medication. I want to learn more about their world and what they've seen. It helps me build my own world. We like to think we know how our friends would react in all the various situations life presents to us. But knowing that someone is reacting to things unknown to us makes their behavior unpredictable. It's disconcerting when the person with you is having a completely different experience to your own. My neighbor has schizophrenia. I think he's ultimately a decent guy, but unfortunately he didn't seem to realize that he had the potential to hurt people. He went off his meds for one reason or another and then tried to kill me and my family. He brought a gun and long knife to our house. Luckily he was unable to enter. Looking back at the security footage, I feel I saw a point where he came back and realized what he was doing, so he turned around, went home, and attempted suicide, perhaps from guilt. As long as you recognize the danger of your illness and swallow the hard-to-swallow pill that your disorder could be a danger to others, as long as you don't keep a gun or a knife collection, as long as you keep taking your meds, I think it's wrong of people to treat you differently to anyone else. I'm sorry you're dealing with such stigma even though you sound like you're managing your condition well. The problem comes when people can't face the facts. Uncontrolled schizophrenia can lead to breaks with reality and possibly violence. It might help if you had an easy-to-understand article discussing how schizophrenia can be controlled with meds, or that most schizophrenics have no history of violence, and share with your friends. Unfortunately, most people will probably have to spend quite a bit of time around you before they are comfortable. People associate schizophrenia with unpredictable and extreme behavior. Most people who are living with schizophrenia are successfully managing their condition with various types of help, but they are not the people who feature in news articles. It has to do with the vibe and how scared most people are of something different that they cannot understand. I've worked with a lot of schizophrenics, so am much more of the interested and curious type when it comes to a schizophrenic's reality. TBH, inappropriate affect and delusion sets go along with schizophrenia, and that can confuse and upset individuals who cannot think outside of their own realities. It's an unfair stigmatization of a mental illness that PPL have continually received misinformation about as well. Because people with untreated schizophrenia have done terrible things while under the control of their hallucinations and delusions. Schizophrenics are notorious for going off their meds and acting crazy. My stepdad was one, and he was a horrible excuse for a human. He was a pedophile who ruined my life. I now suffer from CPTSD, so that's why I personally avoid schizophrenics. If you don't want to be treated differently, make sure your condition is well managed and keep your diagnosis to yourself and only disclose on an as-needed basis. Let your conduct speak instead.